Russia and China renew rejection of a military intervention in Syria. Five law enforcement members and 3 civilians killed in 2 terrorist bombings in Damascus countryside and Idleb. And the UN observers inspect the damage caused to al-Qaboun power station, which was targeted by terrorists yesterday. Hello and welcome, this is News in English. During a phone call, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and UN envoy to Syria Kofi Annan affirmed their support for unifying international efforts to achieve a political and diplomatic settlement to the crisis in Syria. In a statement, the Russian Foreign Ministry said that Lavrov focused during the call on Russia's initiative to hold an international conference to discuss this issue as soon as possible with the participation of all the major players outside Syria, stressing that Lavrov and Annan agreed to continue their contacts and working together to find a political solution to the crisis in Syria through broad national dialogue with international support. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov also spoke in a press conference this afternoon in Moscow about the latest developments, saying that we have heard suggestions of a military intervention in Syria, as the opposition hoped to repeat the Libyan scenario in Syria, indicating that Russia won't let the Libyan scenario be repeated. Lavrov asserted that the Syrian government's responsibility is to protect its citizens. This responsibility is also shared with those who are financing and supporting the armed opposition, as the crimes which are perpetrated in al-Hula and al-Qaboun are the results of such support. The Russian Foreign Minister added that since the beginning of the events, 34 doctors have been killed. He said a bus carrying Russian experts came under attack west of Damascus today. Lavrov said that the terrorists have been murdering religious leaders and worship places are attacked, like Sednaya's monastery. Mr. Lavrov concluded that the decision of stopping the Syrian satellite channels is a decision against the freedom of media and expression, saying that the priorities are to stop violence and implement an announced plan. In response to a question following the conference, the Russian minister said that his country has information about the funding and command of armed groups in Syria. Some of them are public, as Qatari and Saudi officials announced repeatedly their support to these groups, adding that this information is also known and shared by British and NATO specialized organizations in reference to intelligence services. And in a related context, China called on the international community to continue backing the efforts of the UN envoy to Syria Kofi Annan to solve the crisis. Spokesman of the Chinese Foreign Ministry Liu Weimin said that the international community has to keep faith in the mediation efforts of the former UN Secretary General. Liu said China believes that Annan's role should be enhanced, adding that the international community has to offer all kinds of support to the UN envoy. He added that China will continue to work with the international community for a constructive role in ending violence in Syria, considering that the Syrian opposition and government share responsibility for ending violence. Liu reiterated firm denunciation of the terrorist acts in Syria, especially killing women and children, asserting and stressing the importance of bringing the perpetrators to justice, adding that China's stance is open to all proposals that may help ease tension and push forward an early start for a political process in Syria. An armed terrorist group yesterday blew up a booby-trapped car in a Thawra street in Qudsiya area in Damascus countryside, causing the martyrdom of 3 law enforcement members. A number of law enforcement members and civilians were also injured in the bombing. Several shops and residential areas and buildings were severely damaged as a result.
This explosion has destroyed our livelihood. I lost my car.
My house is very fragile. The whole area was affected by this explosion. They were 2 young, the guys that were murdered. Aren't they Syrian? Somebody answer me. Aren't they Syrians?
Everybody in Qudsiya knows that there are 40 to 51 criminals and drug addicts. We don't like to see them here, even before the circumstances. 40 to 50 can destroy Qudsiya.
This explosion had affected my house and my car. People died and buses were destroyed. They are arguing about terrorism and holding conferences. Can they just come here and see terrorism here? Aren't they supporting terrorism?
The International Observers team visited on Saturday and inspected the power station at al-Qaboun area in Damascus, which was targeted by one of the armed terrorist groups. A source at the Electricity Ministry estimated the primary damages of the affected station due to the terrorist explosion by 200 million Syrian pounds. In Aleppo, Rima al-Hamadin, 55, was killed and 4 women were injured, including the 4-year-old child Haifa Hardan, when an explosive device planted by an armed terrorist group in Al-Marji neighborhood exploded. Meanwhile, authorities foiled an attempt to detonate a booby-trapped car near the Engineers Association in the area of Halab al-Jadida. A source at the governorate said that the engineering unit dismantled the explosive device that was planted in a Hyundai Avanti car that carries a plate issued in Homs. The weight of explosives was estimated at 500 kilograms and were placed in water pipes containing large quantities of nails to kill the largest number of civilians. In Idlib province, 2 law enforcement members and 3 civilians were martyred in a blast of a booby-trapped car. A source in the province said that an armed terrorist group blew up a car loaded with large amounts of explosives in the industrial city of Idlib, causing the martyrdom of Warrant Officer Abdel Fattah al-Khatib and the member Muhammad Ghazi, in addition to 3 civilians. The source added that a number of civilians and law enforcement personnel were injured in the bombing, which caused great damages to the buildings and shops in the area. In Homs, security forces thwarted an attempt by armed terrorist groups to infiltrate Syria in al-Qasir countryside from Lebanon. A source at Homs governorate said that the security forces monitored an attempt by 3 pickup cars carrying gunmen and various kinds of weapons to enter Syria in Khirwat al-Naimi in al-Qasir from Sharia al-Qa' in Lebanese territories. The source added that the authorities clashed with the armed groups and managed to destroy 1 car completely, while the other 2 cars returned to Lebanese territories. Lebanese Minister of Defense Fayez Hossein said that smuggling weapons and armed men across illegal crossings on the Lebanese-Syrian borders is still going on. In an interview with Al-Manar satellite channel, Minister Hossein warned of existence of extremists from al-Qaeda who are moving all the time between Syria and Lebanon and other capitals. He added that running away from some suspected extremists from Ain al-Hulwa camp in Lebanon is part of the extremist group's activities, asserting that the Syrian opposition is interested in using the Lebanese city of Tripoli as a base for striking Syria. The Lebanese minister added that the ongoing investigations in smuggling weapons on board of Lutfallah 2 ship showed that the ship was on its way to some extremists in Tripoli who will smuggle the weapons to Syria later on. Security sources confirmed that 2 British persons and 1 Qatari visited the north borders between Syria and Lebanon to assess the readiness of the armed terrorist groups there. The sources added that the 3 persons arrived in a car on the 29th of May and moved between Hanaider al-Haisha and Bani Fakr neighborhood in the area of Wadi Khalid. Afterwards, they moved to the area of Middle Draib before spending a day in Al-Arida. The 2 British persons and the Qatari met senior leaders in the current close to Al-Mustaqbal current before they left the area on the 4th of June. They were acquainted with the operations of smuggling weapons to Syria and the conditions of the armed terrorist groups. The Syrian television broadcast following 8:30 news tonight a documentary film that sheds light on Damascus terrorist bombings. The film includes interviews with families of the victims who were killed and injured as a result of these terrorist bombings. Bahrain witnessed yesterday mass demonstrations in which thousands of Bahraini citizens participated. The Bahraini forces suppressed the demonstrators savagely using concussion and tear gas bombs. Yesterday's demonstrations were in response to the calls from the Bahraini opposition after the arrest of the prominent activist Nabil Rajab for the second time, accusing him of the comments he put on social networks. Damascus is renowned for its beautiful nature, fresh air and water, but the river which runs through the city adds to the magnificence of its nature, especially Ghouta and its nearby areas. A closer look in the following report.
Spring has come as beautiful as it has ever been. This beautiful scenery that our country witnesses has brought many of our citizens to enjoy these beautiful spring times.
This is the land of our father and forefathers. Friday is the day of family, journeys. This is a very beautiful place. It adds to the beauty of the Friday holidays.
Every Friday we come to this beautiful place. My family and I like very much nature that we see here.
The terrorist groups would never be able to affect us. Whatever they do, they wouldn't be able to destroy our country.
Every Friday, I go along with my children to breathe the fresh air. We will stand against these people through patience and through love, and we will show them that they are destined to fail in their purpose.
Friday would always be a day of relaxation and renewal of vivid life.
And with nature we end our bulletin for today. For more details, visit our website www.syriaonline.sy. But stay with us after the break. Vani and the latest in economy.